Based on historical evidence, did Jesus rise from the dead? I want to introduce to you our two speakers for the evening, one speaking against the motion, one speaking for the motion. Firstly, the professor who's speaking against the motion. On my far right, we have Professor Lester Grabbe. He graduated from theology in California and earned his first doctorate from Claremont Graduate School. His second doctorate was from here in Hull at Hull University, and since 1987 he has been head of theology and is currently Dean of Humanities. He also has a personal avid interest in reading detective novels. Always good to put something else in there. Speaking for the motion is Professor John Warwick Montgomery. He graduated in philosophy from Cornell University and earned his first doctorate in history and philosophy from Chicago University. Earned a second doctorate in theology from the University of Strasbourg and also has a degree in law. And he is Professor of Law and Humanities at Luton University. His avid interest, as opposed to reading detective novels, is drinking fine wine and eating great food. So, both the gentlemen are originally from North America, and so there'll be a similarity with distinctives in their accents. My name is Phil Wall, and I work for an organisation called the Salvation Army. I won't be handing out any tea this evening. My job tonight is to chair this debate, and let me explain to you the format for the evening. Each of the speakers will be given 25 minutes to make a presentation against and for the motion. Then, after they've done that, there'll be a very brief 2 to 3 minute break. Please stay within the auditorium at that point. Please stay within at that point. It needs to be a 2 to 3 minute debate, 2 to 3 minute break rather than much longer. Freudian slip. And then after that, once they have kind of got together their thoughts, we'll ask them to take 12 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes, to give a rebuttal of each other's perspectives so that we can hear their responses to the things that each other has said. And then it'll be your opportunity to join in the proceedings this evening. And we're going to invite you to bring questions from the floor. And the way that we'd like those questions dealt with is this. If you could raise your hand to show that you'd like to ask a question, I'll point to you. If you could stand up at that point and address your question to myself, I will then speak the question back through into the microphone so that everyone can hear that, and then ask whoever it is directed towards to respond appropriately. And then once the question time is finished, there'll be 5 to 7 minutes that each of the speakers has to make a final concluding statement. Then straight away is to ask you to put your hands together and welcome our first speaker at this evening, Professor Grabbe. Would you welcome him, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to see such a large audience. I'm tempted, I think, to forget about the debate and just give my inaugural lecture again. I see a few students from theology, no doubt here, hoping I'll be completely humiliated. I think it's important at the beginning to establish what I am and am not trying to do. A reporter from Hull Fire called me up and asked what would be the implications if the Christians win the debate. Well, as I pointed out, that was a very leading question, because it's assuming that anyone arguing on the other side is automatically not a Christian. I may or may not be a Christian. You don't know. Of course, if I were to declare myself a Christian at this point, there are still people here who would fear that I'm not one because I'm taking this side of the debate. Nevertheless, I may or may not be a Christian. I may or may not believe in the resurrection. But in any case, my personal beliefs are irrelevant to the point at hand. It is not my job to disprove the resurrection of Jesus. You may believe in the resurrection as a matter of faith. If so, I have no quarrel with you. My task is a purely historical one. Is there sufficient evidence for the resurrection that the ordinary historian, applying the normal canons of historical criticism, would say, yes, the resurrection probably happened? My contention is that no, the historical argument used for the resurrection is insufficient to answer the question in the affirmative. Some historians would rule out a priori the idea of such an event as the resurrection, and I think for understandable reasons. However, that is not my approach, certainly not for purposes of this debate. There is nothing particularly mysterious about how a historian goes about evaluating evidence.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?